Hi, tips from the trenches. Tim Smith, coal banker, Newport Beach. I'm going to go ahead and do a series of videos once a week with basic, tidbits of what I've found to be successful or helpful in our real estate business. And I would hope that you agents that are watching would do the same thing. If there's something that you can help with a certain aspect of your business, be it short sales, expired listings, REO, asset managers, whatever the lead generating source, I'd be interested. So I wanted to take just a few minutes to talk about short sales and high-end short sales. I think there's a real opportunity not only now, but in the future we're going to see a growing number of high-end short sales. When I say high-end, I would say $1 million up from there. We've had a few close recently, one oceanfront one, which I'm going to talk about, in Sunset Beach at about 1.9 million. One in San Juan Capistrano at almost 8 million, one in Corona Mar almost 6 million. So there's a growing number, and I think the reason we're going to see more is people's ability to tread water. In the high end, they have a longer or better ability to tread water, so we're going to see these people come down the pipe. Anyway, my tip for today is high-end short sales and a couple of thoughts. Number one, as Short Sale Kurt talked about in the Tom Ferry seminar, pre-qualify, pre-qualify, pre-qualify. You never want to take on a client you don't think you can get it done. However, in the high end, you're going to find that hardship is probably a little more gray, so you have to do a little more research, a little more work with it. The property I'm going to talk about is it's a triplex in Sunset Beach, on the beach. Basically, we got the listing from this guy's brother. He's in serious distress. He owns probably 60 properties. It seems that, every week he had another property going to notice of default. So it's kind of a moving picture for banks, because when you look at his full financial package, you see that he actually owns quite a few properties. There could be some equity, so it's kind of a tricky negotiation. This particular case, he had a first and a second with Bank of America at about 2.5 million, and then he had a third, which was a cross-collateralized judgment from a judicial foreclosure on another property of 3 million. So you're basically talking about 5.5 million in liens. The property was worth about 2 million bucks. The first thing to do is, I think you got to find qualified buyers, and you have to hit the banks low. The reason you have to hit the banks low is you need to have margin or room to satisfy the demands of all liens in order. We got the first and the second to agree to a $1.7 million approval. Then after they got the approval, they actually went through his full financial, pulled credit on it, and found that he had all these properties. So they said $1.7 million, but they wanted him to carry a $700,000 deficiency. This was the first hurdle. We went back, we looked, we put together a full package of all of his properties, kind of where the deficiency were, where the challenges were, to show that, hey, this guy's like the Titanic. He's sinking, he's running out. It's only a matter of time before you get nothing. After going back for a few weeks, they agreed. They gave him $1.7 million on those 2 liens with a full release of liability. Then we moved on with the cross-collateralized judgment from La Jolla Bank. Well, the interesting thing is La Jolla Bank was adamant that they weren't going to release this for any amount. They were going to go after him. They figured he had money. They really didn't care. Luckily, it was fortuitous for us. La Jolla Bank went under. The FDIC took him over. Once we started working with the FDIC, they were very objective about his financial situation. They settled that full, I don't know exactly, but somewhere 3 million cross-collateralized judgment for about 80,000. When we went back to close, we had a buyer that was all cash. I always look for the most qualified, flexible, and patient buyers. When we got back to the all-cash buyer, he was ready to close. He was excited about the $1.7 million plus the 80,000, which would be roughly $1 million, or maybe it was $1.75 million. Anyway, the number is probably not important, but I think it was $1.83 million. When we went to close, we actually went to get a payoff and a HUD, and we realized that the second from Bank of America had gone to collections. Well, at this point with collections, there's no way they were going to release this, so we negotiated with them for $77,000 on a $500,000 second, even though we had already had an approval. Really tricky, but the whole time, probably the most important part is kind of having a team, somebody that's handling the bank. I'm handling the expectations of the buyer. It wasn't my buyer, it was an agent's buyer, but he the whole time thought it would take about $2 million for us to get the property. We started at 1.5, we got the approval at 1.750 for the first and the second. We got 80,000 on the Coldwell loan, so he's at $1,830,000, still 170,000 lower than he had hoped for. And then at the end, we had to get that other 80,000, so it was in the low $1,900,000s. Now he was a little irritated because we had thought we had got it without having any more, but then we realized it went to collections, and so really it went to $1,930,000. So I guess the thing is on these high-end short sales, number one, you have to manage the expectations of the buyers. You got to make sure that they, even though you're submitting lower, that they have a commitment that they're going to go up higher. That's key. Number two, you got to hit the banks low, and you have to do your real due diligence of allowing the banks, giving the banks the information they need that they can make a good decision. In this case, I mean, we did property inspections, CMAs multiple times. We did a full financial, like P&L for our client, and then vice versa for the buyer. And number three, never quit. If it hadn't been for La Jolla Bank going under and having it going back to the FDIC, we probably wouldn't have got this done. So that's tips for the trenches. Thanks, and feel free to share those, any tips from any other agents to us. Thanks.